of Education and asks, when she said in her reply to question 11 yesterday, quote, "The Education Act is not the appropriate place for these types of regulations," end quote, had she considered which legislation would be appropriate to ensure that carers in gyms and shopping mall crèches have had a police check? If so, what is that legislation?
The Honourable Hon Tolley.
Mr Speaker, yes, but there is already a variety of legislation covering gym and shopping centre crèches, including normal health and safety requirements which require all practicable steps be taken to ensure that no action or inaction of any employee harms another person. We're also aware that providers are working to develop good practice guidelines, and the best approach is to work with them to ensure that they have the flexibility to provide the best and safest service.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Does she think that convicted paedophiles should be given access to children through employment in gym and shopping centre crèches?
The Honourable Hon Tolley.
Mr Speaker, I think we're talking about paedophile spelled P-E-D, P-A-E-D, not P-E-D, as in the member's press release yesterday.
Mr Speaker, I suggest the member, if she's going to be offensive, looks at a dictionary which shows alternative spellings.
Order. I say all round the House, this interjection will stop. I think, the question was in order. It asked an opinion, and the Minister perhaps should come to the question. The Honourable Hon Tolley.
Mr Speaker, I think the member asking the questions are getting a bit hysterical, because there are large numbers of situations where parents make the choice to leave their children, where it's not required under law to have police checks, and some examples are Sunday schools, which the previous government exempted. The previous government exempted Sunday schools. Guides, Scouts, Cubs, Brownies, swimming lessons, pony clubs, rugby practice, netball practice, soccer practice, hockey practice, athletics clubs, au pairs, school camps, the list goes on and on. Now, while many of these organisations...
The information is very interesting, but the member did ask a very simple question about what the member believed. And, there's no specific answer to what the member believed, but that is a very roundabout way to answer a very simple question. I think we've heard enough. The Honourable Trevor Mallard, if he has a supplementary.
Can she remember reading in a briefing to her before introducing the Education Amendment number 2 bill that an effect of it was to remove police checks from staff at limited attendance early childhood education centres, and if so, why did she then tell the House during the first reading of the bill that that was not her intention?
The Honourable Hon Tolley.
Mr Speaker, I have had a great deal of advice on this issue. The crux of the issue is, though, whether these centres are education centres or whether they are part-time babysitting crèches. So, having received advice from a variety of places, including from the Ministry of Education, this government has made the decision that these centres are part-time temporary babysitting crèches, and therefore it is not appropriate to have them covered under the Education Act. That means they are not covered by the regulations, and there is no opportunity then to regulate them.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
The core of my question is, why did she tell the House in the first reading of the bill that it was not her intention to do what she's done? And she didn't address that, sir?
The dilemma was that wasn't the full extent of the question. The question started out about advice to the Minister, if I recollect correctly, and the Minister responded to that part of the question, and I don't believe I can therefore specifically ask her to respond to the second part of the question. The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
In light of her answer to the previous question, why did she tell the House during the first reading of the bill that that was not her intention?
The Honourable Hon Tolley.
Because originally it wasn't. But because the crux of the matter is that these centres are not providing education. They are not education centres, and therefore it is not appropriate for them to be covered by the Education Act. But there is legislation that covers them, and the requirements of the Health and Safety Act mean that the providers are obliged to provide a safe environment for children.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
What does the caucus think about the decision?
Order the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
How could the Minister say that it originally wasn't her intention when she received advice from her ministry which said that that would be an effect of the change?
The Honourable Tolley.
As I've said in this House to that member, there has been a great deal of discussion, and we have looked at where you draw the line in making provision for the safety of children. And I read out to the House a great long list of times when parents make a choice about where they leave their children for various activities. These centres are places in gyms and in shopping centres. They are so defined that parents have to be close at hand and have to be recalled. As the member said himself in the first reading of the bill in this House, more often than not, parents are within sight of those children. And so the decision was made to take them out of the Education Act because they are not providing education.
Supplementary question. Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Will she support a minor amendment to the Education Amendment Bill number 2 to keep police checks in place for carers in gymnasia and shopping crèches until such time as an alternative system for ensuring such checks to ensure that paedophiles do not have access to those children is legislated?
The Honourable Tolley.
Mr. Speaker, we will not support a change that brings places like gym crèches, shopping centre crèches, Sunday schools, guides, scouts, cubs, and the myriad of places that parents choose to leave their children for short amounts of time under the regulations of the Education Act.
Question number 11, Michael Woodhouse.